This is Fieldsports Channel News. A charity that rescues injured birds of prey has sacked Chris Packham. The TV presenter has lost his prestigious role with Raptor Rescue, who says they were unable to get him to do any work for them. Malcolm Robbins' organisation rescues hundreds of injured birds of prey every year. He says there is also concern over Packham's apparent move into political protest, which he says has upset some of the charity's supporters. One of them contacted the charity to complain about the BBC star's admissions in his memoirs that during the 1970s, when he was a teenager, he stole a kestrel from a nest and that he collected eggs, both illegal at the time under the 1954 Protection of Birds Act. Packham, who is president of the RSPCA and a vice president of the RSPB, has been linked to Raptor Rescue since 1994. His name has now been removed from its website. We contacted Packham's lawyers for comment, but have so far received no response. Scotland's MPs have ignored pleas to vote down the controversial wildlife and Muirburn bill. The bill moved a step towards becoming law when it was passed at the first stage by the Scottish Parliament. The bill was passed by 82 votes for and 32 against, but the fight isn't over yet. It's feared the bill will harm countryside sports and the related tourism industry in Scotland if it's eventually passed.
The three licensing strands within the bill, namely the grouse shoot licence, the Muirburn licence and the licensing of certain traps, are totally unworkable for those involved in sustainable grouse moor management, and it could actually hinder the investment in our upland landscapes.
The Welsh Government has been criticised for ignoring the public over game shooting. Basque has launched its legal challenge to a public consultation on licensed game bird release. This week, the shooting organisation wrote to the Welsh Minister, Julie James, threatening legal proceedings will be pursued if the results of the consultation aren't considered. Basque gathered 42,000 signatures as part of its Act Now campaign, protesting the scheme to introduce licences for game bird release in Wales from 2025. There is more on this from Gareth Jones later in the show. Meanwhile, DEFRA has doubled down on its ban on releasing pheasants near European designated special protected areas. Using figures for bird flu from late 2022, it's restricting the release of pheasants and partridges in or near special protection areas to stave off the potential threat of the disease. In new guidance for the release of game birds in England in 2024, the government department warns there's no automatic renewal of existing individual licences for 2024. In July this year, Basque said it planned to launch a judicial review into DEFRA's decision, which bans release pens from swathes of the English countryside. Devon and Cornwall police say they've spent £1 million retraining firearms licensing officers. Following the Plymouth shootings in 2021, when a man shot 5 people, then shot himself using a shotgun which he legally held on a temporary gun licence, Devon and Cornwall's firearms licensing service appeared to collapse. Last year, the police inspectorate criticised the force for its backlog of temporary permits. An inquiry was told that the force had 3,700 temporary permits on issue from a total of just over 37,000 licences. Devon and Cornwall now says the number of temporary permits is drastically reduced and the workforce used to process licensing has doubled. Local shooters report that it's still actively revoking certificates where it can, but that it no longer sends armed officers to certificate holders' doors, and it allows them temporarily to store guns in gun shops instead of confiscating them. One of America's most historic gun makers has announced it's closing its factory in Upper State, New York. Remington's been making guns and ammunition on the site since the mid-1800s. Unions fear the proposed closure and a move to new headquarters in Georgia will lead to the loss of almost 300 jobs. Remington has been in and out of bankruptcy protection since 2017 and is now owned by Vista Outdoors, which owns the CCI and Federal Ammunition brands. A rifle used by one of the most famous hunters in African history is to be auctioned. Denny Finch Hatton was immortalised in the book and film Out of Africa. His 1905 George Gibbs bolt-action rifle is going under the hammer at the Rock Island Auction House in Illinois and could fetch more than $20,000. The gun was used by Finch Hatton while big game hunting in East Africa in the 1920s. It comes with several factory-sealed boxes of original ammunition. A historic hunt is considering its options after a local council approved plans for a wheelbarrow race on Boxing Day on part of its traditional route. The South Down and Eridge Hunt in Sussex has paraded through Lewes for generations. Now an anti-hunting group has successfully applied to host the wheelbarrow race along the same route as the hunt normally uses on December the 26th each year. Lewes Council granted the antis a licence and refused one for the hunt. Aesop's fable said a wolf in sheep's clothing would come to a nasty end. But what if things were the other way around? Scientists have pioneered new pheromone collars containing wolf hormones and a scent to be worn by sheep. Ongoing research in the alpine region of Ticino shows that wolves ignore sheep and lambs that wear the special collars. Scientists hope it may provide a solution to the growing problems caused by wolf packs in the region. And finally, here's the perfect story leading us into Christmas as you make plans as to what's going to grace the festive table. This is Huttons Butchers in Yorkshire. Its annual display of traditional game produce has been wowing customers for decades. This year, owner Emma Briley says she believes they've had a more positive response than ever before to the collection of game birds and wildfowl, including partridge, teal, mallard and pheasants on display at their shop in Knaresborough.
This year in particular, we've had an absolutely positive response. I can't tell you how positive it's been. In previous years, you've had the odd person walk past and go, oh, there's birds hanging outside. But I wonder whether, because of everything that's going on with the economic climate and everything, whether people realise that maybe eating more sustainably, it would be better.
You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.